Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a vast, foggy abyss, peering into the unknown depths of your own mind, where invisible forces pull the strings of your every action, decision, and destiny. What if those forces weren't chains holding you back, but tools you could wield to reshape your entire life? What if the secret to quitting smoking, losing weight, or building an empire wasn't buried in some elusive burst of motivation, but hidden in the mundane rhythms of your daily routine? Buckle up, because we're about to dive into a world where habits aren't just habits. They're the architects of triumph and tragedy, the silent engines driving everything from personal breakthroughs to corporate revolutions and societal upheavals. This isn't just a summary. It's a journey through the hidden mechanics of human behavior, filled with real stories, scientific insights, and practical takeaways that could change how you live forever. Let's start with a woman named Lisa Allen, a real-life example that pulls you right into the heart of this transformative power. Picture her in a dingy Cairo hotel room, the air thick with the scent of street food vendors hawking falafel and the distant honks of chaotic traffic wafting through the open window like a relentless symphony. She's just hit rock bottom, freshly divorced, buried under a mountain of debt that feels like quicksand, chain-smoking 2 packs a day until her lungs burn with every breath, and chasing fleeting highs in dimly lit bars where the nights blur into one endless haze of regret. But in that moment of utter despair, as the ancient pyramids loom in the distance like silent sentinels witnessing her breakdown, a tiny spark ignites deep within her. She decides to quit smoking, not through some Herculean act of willpower that fizzles out after a day, but by replacing it with something entirely new: jogging. She laces up a pair of worn sneakers, steps out into the scorching Egyptian sun, and starts running. First just a block, gasping for air, then farther, her feet pounding the uneven sidewalks as sweat mixes with the dust of the city. Fast forward 4 years, and Lisa's life is unrecognizable. She's not just smoke-free. She's conquered marathons, shedding pounds that once weighed her down both physically and emotionally, climbed the corporate ladder to a job that excites her every morning, and even bought her first home, a cozy place where she can finally breathe easy. Scientists who later scanned her brain discovered the astonishing truth. Her neural pathways had completely rewired themselves. The old, destructive patterns had faded like ghosts in the dawn, while new, empowering ones were etched deep into her gray matter, as permanent as carvings on stone. How did this happen? Through the raw, unyielding power of habits. These automatic loops that govern more than 40% of our daily actions without us even noticing, operating in the background like a well-oiled machine. Think about it for a second. Have you ever driven home on complete autopilot, your mind wandering to dinner plans or that argument at work, only to arrive at your door with absolutely no memory of the journey? The turns, the stoplights, the other cars whizzing by? That's your brain at work, conserving precious mental energy by turning complex, once daunting tasks into effortless rituals that require zero conscious thought. This is the essence of what researchers uncovered through the fascinating case of a man named Eugene Pauly, a story that peels back the layers of how our brains really function. Eugene was an ordinary guy living a quiet life in San Diego until a devastating viral encephalitis attacked his brain, ravaging the medial temporal lobe and wiping out his ability to form any new memories whatsoever. He couldn't recall what he had eaten for breakfast just minutes ago, or even recognize his own grandchildren when they visited, their faces as unfamiliar as strangers on the street. Yet, astonishingly, every single day without fail, Eugene would lace up his old walking shoes, step out the front door, and take a leisurely stroll around the block, navigating the twists and turns of his suburban neighborhood with flawless precision. Dodging potholes, crossing streets at the right spots, even waving at neighbors he couldn't name. When asked how he managed this feat, he'd just shrug his shoulders in confusion. His conscious mind had no clue, no recollection, no plan. But deep inside his skull, in a primitive structure called the basal ganglia, that ancient, walnut-shaped lump of tissue that's been part of our brains since the days of our reptilian ancestors, something extraordinary was happening. This is the habit headquarters, the neurological vault where routines are stored like files on a hard drive, allowing the rest of your brain to focus on higher-level thinking, creativity, or simply daydreaming. Eugene's story isn't just a medical curiosity. It reveals the fundamental structure of every habit we have. A three-part dance known as the habit loop, consisting of cue, routine, and reward. The cue is the trigger that sets everything in motion. It could be a specific time of day, like the clock striking 3 p.m. signaling your afternoon slump. An emotional state, such as stress bubbling up after a tough meeting, or even a sensory input, like the smell of freshly baked cookies wafting from the kitchen. The routine is the action itself, the behavior you perform almost without thinking, whether it's reaching for a snack, lighting up a cigarette, or scrolling through your phone. And the reward? That's the payoff that makes the whole thing worthwhile, the neurological hit that tells your brain, "This is good, do it again," sealing the loop and making you crave repetition. For Eugene, the cue might have been the warm sunlight streaming through his living room window in the morning or the familiar feel of his sneakers slipping onto his feet. The routine was the walk itself, his legs moving in a rhythmic pattern honed over years, and the reward was that subtle, hard-to-define sense of accomplishment, the fresh air filling his lungs, or perhaps the endorphins releasing like a gentle wave washing over him. Scientists at MIT proved this loop's existence through ingenious experiments with rats in a T-shaped maze, chasing after a piece of chocolate as their brains were monitored with tiny electrodes. At first, the rodents' minds exploded with activity, firing like fireworks as they sniffed every corner, analyzed paths, and made decisions. But after dozens of repetitions, click goes the starting gate, scurry through the maze, gobble the treat. The brain activity quieted dramatically, settling into an efficient pattern. The loop was locked in scratch at the starting line, the cue, dash through the familiar turns, the routine, and savor the chocolate bliss, the reward. Remove the chocolate entirely, and the rats would grow listless and depressed, scratching at the end of the maze in vain. But the habit persisted, etched into their neurology like a groove in vinyl. Now, imagine harnessing this habit loop not just to survive the daily grind, but to thrive in ways you never thought possible. To build unbreakable discipline, achieve lofty goals, or even turn around a life that's spiraling out of control. Take the story of Claude Hopkins, the legendary advertising wizard of the early 1900s, whose campaigns didn't just sell products. They engineered entirely new habits in the American public. Back then, toothbrushing was a rarity. Most people's smiles were more stained yellow than pearly white, and dental hygiene was an afterthought at best. Hopkins was tasked with promoting Pepsodent toothpaste, a minty concoction that could have flopped like so many others. But instead of droning on about its chemical ingredients or scientific backing, Hopkins zeroed in on creating a craving. He invented a cue. That gritty, filmy coating on your teeth that you can feel right now if you run your tongue across them. His ads blared across newspapers and billboards. Run your tongue across your teeth. Feel that film? That's the enemy of beauty and health. The routine was simple. Brush with Pepsodent, feeling the paste foam up and scrub away the grime. And the reward? A tingling, minty freshness that left your mouth feeling alive and invigorated, like a cool breeze on a hot day. Sales skyrocketed from virtually nothing to millions of dollars in just a decade, turning toothbrushing into a national obsession. Why did it work so spectacularly? Because of craving, that anticipatory itch your brain develops for the reward. Your mind didn't just want clean teeth. It began to anticipate that refreshing burst, turning a chore into an addiction you couldn't resist. Hopkins didn't create the film, it was always there, a natural buildup of plaque. But he made you hyper-aware of it, transforming it into a cue that demanded action. Pause and think. What's a similar craving lurking in your own day-to-day life? That afternoon coffee run isn't just about the caffeine jolt. It's the ritual break from work, the warmth of the cup in your hands, the momentary escape from emails and deadlines. Understand the true craving behind your habits, and you unlock the door to changing them. But cravings don't always emerge so effortlessly. Sometimes, they need to be carefully cultivated, as Procter & Gamble learned the hard way with Febreze in the 1990s. This odor-eliminating spray was poised to revolutionize home cleaning, but it nearly bombed spectacularly, with sales flatlining despite millions in marketing. The initial pitch focused on killing bad smells. Got a stinky gym bag or pet odor? Spray Febreze. But who really craves admitting their home reeks like a locker room? People avoided it because it highlighted a problem they preferred to ignore. Then came the breakthrough. Researchers pored over hours of consumer videos, watching women tidy their homes with meticulous care, dusting shelves, fluffing pillows, vacuuming carpets under the soft glow of living room lamps. At the end, many would spritz Febreze not to mask a smell, but as a grand finale, inhaling deeply with satisfied smiles as the fresh scent filled the air like a victory parade. The team realized the cue needed to shift. It wasn't the odor itself, but the completion of cleaning, that moment when the room sparkles and order is restored. The routine became a quick spray around the space, and the reward was that pleasurable, scented affirmation of a job well done. Suddenly, cravings kicked in. People didn't use Febreze to fix a problem. They craved it as the cherry on top of their efforts, a sensory reward that made cleaning addictive. Sales exploded to over $1 billion annually. What about your own routines? Think of your household chores, maybe ending laundry day with a favorite candle or a cup of tea. Add a ritual like that, and you might find yourself craving the task instead of dreading it. Yet, changing deeply ingrained habits isn't about wiping them out entirely. That's a recipe for failure, as your brain clings to familiar patterns like a life raft. Instead, it's about clever substitution, following what's known as the golden rule of habit change. Keep the same cue and the same reward, but swap out the routine in between for something better. This principle came to life in the high-stakes world of professional football through Duhigg, the innovative coach who took over the perpetually underperforming Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the 1990s. The team was mired in mediocrity, losing games because players overthought every play, hesitating in the heat of the moment as opponents charged ahead. Duhigg, with his calm demeanor and philosophical approach, simplified everything. At the snap of the ball, the cue, that sharp crack echoing across the field, the players were to instinctively shift into pre-drilled defensive alignments, the new routine, executing with lightning speed rather than deliberation. The reward remained the same, winning the play, feeling the rush of tackling the quarterback or intercepting a pass. No more paralysis by analysis. Habits took over. It took years of grueling practice under the Florida sun, with sweat-drenched jerseys and endless repetitions, but small wins built belief. When Duhigg moved to the Indianapolis Colts, this habit system propelled them to Super Bowl victory in 2007, proving that habits don't just win games, they build champions. Imagine applying this to your own life. If stress cue leads to mindless snacking, routine, for that comfort hit, reward, swap the routine to a quick meditation or stretch. Same trigger, same soothing payoff, but a healthier path. Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, embodies this substitution on a profound, life-saving scale. For co-founder Bill Wilson in the 1930s, the cue was often overwhelming stress from his stockbroker job or the lure of social gatherings. The routine was pouring a drink, feeling the burn slide down his throat, and the reward was that temporary relaxation, the camaraderie of the bar. AA doesn't eliminate those cues. Life's pressures and social scenes persist, but it swaps the routine for meetings, working the 12 steps, and leaning on a sponsor for support. The rewards stay similar. Connection with others, inner peace, a sense of belonging. But here's the crucial twist that makes it stick: belief. Without a genuine faith in the possibility of change, whether through a higher power, the group dynamic, or personal resolve, relapses crash in like tidal waves. Studies from places like the Scranton Veterans Affairs Medical Center show that AA's success rate soars when participants are embedded in supportive communities. Isolation, on the other hand, amplifies cues and kills progress. Have you ever tried quitting a vice cold turkey, all alone in your room? The loneliness turns every cue into a siren call. Surround yourself with believers, friends, family, or online forums, and the new routine embeds itself like roots in fertile soil, growing stronger with each day. Now, let's zoom out from the individual battles to the grand scale of organizations, where habits aren't just personal. They scale to influence thousands of lives and billions of dollars. Enter Paul O'Neill, the unassuming CEO who took the helm of Alcoa, the aluminum manufacturing giant, in 1987 when it was teetering on the brink of collapse amid strikes, low morale, and plummeting stock prices. Investors packed into a Manhattan ballroom, expecting a rousing speech on cost-cutting or market expansion. Instead, O'Neill stood at the podium, his voice steady, and declared an obsession with something seemingly unrelated: worker safety. "If we bring our injury rate to zero," he said, "everything else will follow." Skeptics rolled their eyes. What did safety have to do with profits? But O'Neill saw safety as a keystone habit, a single pivotal change that would trigger a cascade of positive transformations throughout the company. To cut accidents in the dangerous world of smelters and rolling mills, where molten metal could spill and machinery could crush, Alcoa revamped communication channels, mandatory training sessions, and even flattened hierarchies so that hourly workers could halt production lines if something felt off. Unions and executives, once at each other's throats, collaborated on safety protocols, sharing ideas in smoke-filled meeting rooms that turned into hubs of innovation. The results were staggering. Injuries plummeted by 90%, product quality soared as attention to detail became habitual, and profits tripled, turning Alcoa into an industry powerhouse. O'Neill's genius lay in recognizing keystone habits, these linchpin behaviors that create structures for other good habits to flourish, like dominoes falling in perfect sequence. It's similar to how starting an exercise routine can reshape your entire life. You begin with a morning run, the keystone, and suddenly you're eating healthier to fuel your body, sleeping better to recover, and even boosting productivity at work because endorphins sharpen your focus. One small change begets a multitude, rippling outward like waves from a stone tossed into a pond. Willpower plays a starring role in this habit drama, acting less like an infinite resource and more like a muscle that fatigues with overuse but strengthens with training. Psychologists at Case Western Reserve University demonstrated this in clever experiments. Students were asked to resist freshly baked chocolate chip cookies, munching on radishes instead while the aroma filled the room. Later, when given impossible puzzles, these resistors quit far faster than those who indulged in the cookies. Their willpower was depleted, like a battery running low. But the flip side is inspiring. Train that muscle through consistent challenges and it grows robust. At Starbucks, baristas face daily inflection points. Those high-pressure moments when an irate customer storms in, demanding a remake of their latte amid the hiss of espresso machines and the chatter of the morning rush. To build willpower habits, the company drills employees in the latte method. Listen to the complaint without interrupting, acknowledge the issue with empathy. I understand why that's frustrating. Take action to fix it, remake the drink on the spot, thank the customer for their patience, and explain what went wrong to prevent future mishaps. By pre-deciding these routines, baristas turn potential meltdowns into opportunities, conserving willpower for the long shift ahead. Studies on Scottish patients recovering from hip surgery echo this. Those who scripted detailed recovery plans, like, "I'll walk to the bus stop by the end of the week, even if it means taking breaks every few steps," healed 3 times faster than those without plans. Autonomy fuels it too. When you feel in control of your choices, willpower sustains itself like a perpetual motion machine. In your own world, try scripting your day. When I feel the urge to procrastinate, I'll set a 5-minute timer to start the task routine, rewarding myself with a short break reward. Over time, this builds an unbreakable willpower habit. Crises, those unexpected storms that upend everything, often serve as accelerators for organizational habit change, forcing adaptations that stick long after the dust settles. Take Rhode Island Hospital in the early 2000s, where a toxic culture of ego and hierarchy bred catastrophic errors in the operating room, surgeons berating nurses over the beeps of monitors, leading to wrong-site surgeries and even patient deaths. The atmosphere was electric with tension, scalpels clattering as voices rose in arguments. A high-profile tragedy, a child operated on the wrong side of the brain, finally forced reform. Mandatory checklists were introduced, empowering nurses to pause procedures if protocols weren't followed, flattening the power structure so that every voice mattered. Habits reformed under pressure, with errors dropping dramatically as teamwork became the new routine. On a different front, retail giant Target uses habit data to predict life events with eerie accuracy. Their data wizards analyze shopping patterns, sudden spikes in unscented lotion, cotton balls, or supplements, and flag pregnancies before families even announce them. The cue is the purchase data streaming in, the routine is sending tailored coupons, the reward is increased sales. But when a furious father confronted a manager about baby ads sent to his teenage daughter, who was, indeed, pregnant, Target learned to settle it up, mixing in unrelated items to avoid creeping people out. Habits revealed. We buy on autopilot, and companies exploit those patterns to nudge us, raising questions about privacy in a data-driven world. Scaling up even further, societies themselves run on collective habits, invisible threads that weave communities together or tear them apart. Pastor Rick Warren transformed a humble garage Bible study into Saddleback Church, one of America's largest megachurches with over 20,000 attendees, by habitizing faith. He created small groups as the Q, weekly meetings in cozy living rooms with coffee brewing and laughter echoing. The routine involved studying scripture, sharing personal stories, and supporting each other through life's ups and downs. The reward was a deep sense of belonging, emotional uplift, and spiritual growth. These habits spread virally, turning newcomers into devoted members and fueling explosive growth. Similarly, the Montgomery bus boycott of 1955 wasn't just sparked by Rosa Parks' courageous refusal to give up her seat on a crowded bus amid the humid Alabama evening. Its success hinged on ingrained social habits. Parks' arrest was the cue, but the boycott endured for 381 days because of weak ties. Those loose acquaintances bridging different communities, like church groups and NAACP members, who spread the word through phone trees and flyers. Martin Luther King Jr. channeled this into a movement. Nonviolence became the routine, preached in packed churches with voices rising in hymns, and justice was the ultimate reward. Peer pressure sustained it. Habits of unity and resilience turned a local spark into a national fire that dismantled segregation. But what if those social habits turn dark? Consider how rumors and mob mentality can spread hate, or how community norms enforce positive change like recycling drives. Habits aren't without their ethical shadows, blurring the lines between choice and compulsion in ways that challenge our notions of free will. Angie Bachman, a homemaker from Iowa, started gambling casually at casinos, lured by free comps, luxurious rooms, gourmet meals, the ding of slot machines under glittering lights. The cue was the invitation emails, the routine betting higher and higher, the reward, the adrenaline thrill of a win. But it spiraled into millions lost, her life in ruins. Was it addiction or poor habits? Casinos engineered the environment to exploit cravings, raising questions of responsibility. Then there's Brian Thomas, a Welsh man who strangled his wife in his sleep during a night terror, his brain trapped in a habitual fight-or-flight response from dreams. Acquitted in court, his case highlights how habits can automate actions beyond conscious control. Neurology shows our brains on autopilot, but awareness, shining a light on cues and routines, reclaims the wheel. As we near the end of this epic exploration, let's circle back to the core. Habits are the invisible architecture shaping your life, from the smallest daily choices to the grandest achievements. The cue ignites the spark, the routine carries you through, the reward locks it in, and craving keeps the engine roaring. Change a keystone habit, and entire worlds shift, like ripples becoming tsunamis. But it all demands belief, in yourself, in the process, in the possibility of a better tomorrow. What habit will you examine today? Will you identify a cue that's holding you back, swap a routine that's draining you, and chase a reward that elevates you? Or will you let old patterns linger in the shadows, dictating your story? The power is unequivocally yours. Ponder this as you go about your day. In the dense fog of routine, you are the master architect. Build wisely, intentionally, and watch as your life transforms into something extraordinary, one deliberate habit at a time. What if starting right now, with this very breath, you began rewriting your destiny? The abyss awaits, step forward and claim it.